welcome to Along the Rock, brought to you by the Radar Free Press. I am your host, Kaitlyn Blum. Today with us, we have Dana Fellows. How are you today?
I'm doing great.
Good. So you have a very interesting hobby, and I want to hear more about it. So can you tell me a little bit about your hobby?
Yeah, so I don't know if it was technically a hobby. So what started out about 15 years ago, I drove by the Round Grove Cemetery where I have ancestors buried. And I decided to stop and walk through and just look at the graves. And the one grave of my great-great-uncle had fallen over, and part of it had rolled away. It was actually round and 20 feet away. And then I just got looking around at other ancestors' graves, and some of them were starting to lean real bad, about ready to tip over. And so it kind of made me angry a little bit that nobody's taking care of this. So I found out who the caretaker was, the sexton, and I went and I talked to him. And at first I was kind of like mad, like I'm going to tell this guy he needs to, not really mad, but just frustrated. Then I found out the guy was like 85 years old, and maybe 80, and not really capable of fixing things. And most cemeteries, they don't have any money. They just get run down. So I just asked him, I go, hey, can I get permission to fix those? I'll do it myself. And he said, yeah. He goes, you do whatever you want. He goes, fix them all if you want. I go, okay. So I did. I went and I started with my own relatives, and I fixed the headstones that had fallen over and broken and got that done. So that was like 15 years ago. And then over the next couple of years, I just would maintain those, like maybe a dozen headstones, just kind of check on them and make sure they're okay and everything. And I actually installed a tombstone for some great-great-grandparents. Never had a tombstone, so I actually ordered one on the internet and went over and installed it myself. So I did that, and then we moved away for like 7 or 8 years to Utah. Long story. And then when I came back, I went back over there, and during that time I was gone, I didn't do anything, of course, because I wasn't here. And then I just kind of looked around and saw there was just a lot of headstones needed help. And then I got permission from the Mount Pleasant Township to actually go in and touch other people's property. And most of the stuff I touch, the families have long abandoned. The stones, they're like 150 years old. They haven't been visited or touched in 100 years. So then I just started. At first, it looked like a monumental task. Like 100 tombstones could be fixed. And some of them totally tipped over, broken, some 100% buried. You don't know they're there. And I just started with a couple and then just kept working on it. And this summer, I probably fixed, uprighted probably 40, and then probably touched another 40, like straighten them out. And there's still 100 that I could. But I got most of the worst ones first.
Wow. So it's like a little bit of like historical restoration. It's definitely like a community service kind of thing.
Yeah, so I just volunteer. I don't get paid for it. I retired recently, so I have time on my hand. Yeah. And my entire life, not my entire life, but the past 20 years, I worked either teaching or sitting at a desk creating like content for textbooks. So it feels kind of good to get out and actually do something that's not sitting at a desk all day.
Yeah, so do you do any research on these headstones?
Yeah, so I'll find either, if it's totally buried, of course I don't even know it's there, and I'll unearth it. Like actually, when I say buried, it's like under 6 inches of sod.
Oh, wow.
And I actually got like a metal probe. I'll poke around the ground, like, so you see a line of headstones, and there's several empty spots that could be something, and I probe around, I'll find some that way. Or if they fall over, like the grass on top will die off this time of year when it gets dry. So it's like, oh, there must be something under here. So I'll unearth them, then I'll look and see who the person is, and then I'll look around the immediate areas if there's any matching family members. The only records of the cemetery is a plot map of who bought the plots. So not really, there's no records. Those burned up in like 1900 in a fire.
Oh, wow.
So I'll get as much information as I can, then go to Ancestry.com or FamilySearch.com and try to find the families and see what happened, like where the family ended up, what happened, are they still around here, or things like that. So a couple interesting things, a couple of the headstones I fixed, friends from Tampico, they commented, they said, oh my gosh, this is my great-great-grandfather's sister. And I had no idea. So sometimes people will recognize what I'm working on, and they do their own little research and figure out, oh, that's a family member, but they kind of didn't know that person was there, or lost track of the tombstone, that it fell over or whatever.
Yeah, wow. So like you kind of get some connections in the community too. Yeah. So have you had like any like a particularly difficult like restoration that you've had to do?
So the two most difficult, I found a couple that were totally, like, they're tablet stones, so they're like 2 inches wide and like maybe 2 feet tall and like 16 inches wide. And a couple of those have been totally busted, like in 5 pieces. And I'll actually take it home to my garage and then sit and like glue those back together and then fill in all the cracks with mortar and try to make it look as original as possible. So those, they're not so much hard, they're time consuming. I'll spend, 8 hours on one, whether if it's just tipped over, I can fix it like in an hour. So those are difficult. The other ones are heavy, just weight wise. And so I have built like a tripod with a hoist to like help lift those up. And then I have a cousin who occasionally, he works full time, but he'll come over and help once in a while. Some of the heavier ones will tackle together. So it's also like a safety thing. I don't want to mess with anything that, if it falls on me, it's going to crush me or something, So,
for sure.
Yeah, so I focus on the small stuff when I'm by myself, and then some of the bigger stuff when I have help.
Have you ever had anything like unexpected you've seen out at the cemetery or uncovered?
So the most surprising thing is how many stones I found completely 100% buried that there's totally lost. So in the 1950s, the Daughters of American Revolution, they went through and did like did a transcription of the stones, and they did a pretty good job, but some of them are hard to read, so they got misspellings and stuff. But the surprising thing is that I have found like 25 or 30 stones totally buried that have been forgotten about in history. There's no documentation at all.
Oh, wow.
And so like no records, they don't show up in any records at all. And so that's kind of the surprising thing, that there's, and so I have found a couple of pictures from the 1960s. And when I look at that picture and I stand at the same angle today, some of them, there'll be a headstone standing, which is now gone, which then I know to look in that area because it's probably buried. But another thing is like, there's no stone in either picture, but I find a stone buried. So it makes me think that this tombstone's been buried for like 70 years or so.
Wow.
So it's totally missing in the 60s, and it had to have been tipped over probably 20, 30 years previous to that to get buried.
Yeah.
And so maybe close to 100 years, some of those have been tipped over and buried.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
And it is incredible to think like how many names have been completely lost to history.
Yeah. And even so, a lot of infants, I found a lot of infants are 6-month-old babies. And when I go to the family search sites and stuff, there's very little information. It just says, infant, baby died or whatever. But then when I bring up the tombstone, like, it might actually have the person's name on it. So whatever family did that family history, that name was kind of forgotten and not documented in the family history. Probably no death certificate or birth certificate. So over a couple of generations, people forgot what that baby's name was.
Yeah.
And then I find it on the tombstone. And so it's like, okay, I just discovered a person who was totally forgotten about. So
yeah, wow. So what do you find like most rewarding about this work?
Just when it's finished, I find something buried, I dig it up, I clean it, I'll build like a concrete base for a new base. A lot of those had bases that were like sandstone, they've broken and gotten brittle, whatever, broke, and that's part of the reason why they tip over. But when I'm done and get it standing up and it's clean, and then take a picture of it, it's like, looks almost brand new in some cases. And just, and it kind of becomes addictive a little bit. You get some of them going and you just want to keep fixing it up and making it look nice.
Yeah.
And so it's rewarding, but the whole thing is rewarding, just doing that. And I'm glad I have the time and ability physically. You know, a lot of people get old, they like to do stuff like that. And so some people have stopped, elderly people, and they said, you know, they'll say, like, if you need help, let me know. Well, they're like 80 and they can hardly walk. Mm-hmm. It's like, well, just, you know, moral support is good, and knowing that they appreciate what I'm doing is good enough, you know. But yeah, when you get old and retire, you only got a small window where you're physically able to do stuff like this. And I'm in that window right now, so I gotta stay busy.
Yeah, and do you make YouTube videos of this?
A couple. So, a few. If I think about actually turning the camera on, I'll dig around, explain what I'm doing, what I'm digging. So I got probably like 4 or 5 videos that I've done when I think about it. So a lot of times when I'm over there, it's really hot, it's miserable. I'm not really thinking about, you know, during the summer, we had kind of a warm summer. Yeah. And I'll go over there like either late in the afternoon, or I'm kind of in a hurry, take advantage of the sunbeams going down. You know, only got a couple hours of daylight to work. So sometimes I don't take the time to put the camera on. I just have my phone. So a lot of times my hands are dirty too. So I don't want to be messing with my phone too much, get it all dirty. But yeah, I got about 4 or 5 videos that I've done. And I kind of explain a little bit like about the family if I know about it. Because sometimes it's like a 3-day process. I'll find the tombstone and then clean it off. Then I'll measure it, because a lot of them are designed to go into like a slotted base. Mm-hmm. And so I actually build a base with concrete and I make that at home. Then I'll take that back a day or 2 later. And so by that time, I've already done some research on who that family is and who that person is. Mm-hmm. And then I might add that information to the video. But a lot of it's on Facebook posts on my own personal page. I'll research a family, find the obituary, perhaps that person, and then share that also.
Cool. So, well, thank you for being here with me today, Dana.
Well, thank you.
It was really cool hearing all this information.
Yeah.
I want to say thank you to our listeners and to our production crew as well. Remember that the Radar Free Press is free, so we do rely on those likes, shares, and comments to keep us thriving. And if you want to see more videos like this, check out theradar.online.